Hi and welcome to this Blueberry Markets video update with me, John Kibler, head currency analyst. In this video we're going to go through the Forex market wrap. We're going to highlight some of the news that happened this week as well as some of the charts of interest from the week ahead analysis video. So looking towards the news for this week, then we had quite an interesting week in terms of data scheduled and non-scheduled. But really the news was dominated by the banking sector pressures. You can see I've just made a note over here on the right hand side. We had the SVB collapse over the sort of end of last week, over the weekend, and then that kind of continued into Monday. We then had the problems across then European banking, Credit Suisse, basically not being backed by their largest shareholder, which is Saudi National Bank, and that basically was due to regulatory restrictions. Obviously then the Swiss government came out and I think they said they would back them with 50 billion or something like that. We then were interested into what the ECB would do, because there was then a lot of pressure around central banks to potentially hold interest rate hikes or hike by a slower pace, and the ECB went ahead with their 50 basis points hike instead. So it was a really interesting week in the markets. Now, obviously next week we've got the Federal Reserve coming up, and the Federal Reserve Chairman Powell was quite hawkish in tone when he was talking to Congress. However, then backtracked on his words the day after, and then obviously data that followed kind of backed up his approach of maybe not hiking as aggressively as he said. But the way that he came out with it kind of shocked the market. The dollar strengthened. However, the opposite has happened now. We've had that dollar weakness coming in, and that's because the Federal Reserve may now look to pause interest rates or keep hiking at a slower pace. So that's going to be an interesting development going into next week's trading, which we'll talk about in our week ahead analysis video. In other news though, we had US CPI came out pretty much as expected, apart from core CPI. Core CPI coming in a little bit above expectations at 0.5%. We then had some other details coming out in terms of retail sales, PPI. Market pretty much ignored Wednesday's data because of the situation with Credit Suisse. We then moved on to some other data. So employment change in Australia was good. We saw large increases there, as well as the unemployment rate going down. And then coming towards the end of the week, we had the ECB hiking rates. So, yeah, very interesting week regards to news. Let's see how we got on with our charts of interest in the week ahead analysis video. So we're going to kick it off with dollar yen. We looked at dollar yen to potentially break and continue to the downside into the 132.75. We were trading up at the 134.50. We talked about two options really: a move back higher for a move down, and then a move higher from the 134.50, or the break and sort of retest, and that's what we got in the end due to the yen strengthening. We have come down into this sort of area here, which is around about the 131.50, and price is starting to find a little bit of support, so be interesting to see if we can trade higher here or move lower. We did talk about the potential for price to move back towards 134.50. However, that didn't follow through in the end. Again, the yen began to strengthen towards the end of the week. Dollar Swiss then. So dollar Swiss played out pretty much exactly as we expected. Price was coming into the 0.9150 handle, and we were talking about starting to look for retracements because we had such a large move to the downside. So price, however, kind of burst through the 0.9150 and then came into these previous lows around about the 0.9050 and rebounded instead. But it came up and targeted the 0.93 handle, this trend line resistance running through as well. So that was a really nice market to watch if you were watching down at these low levels. Aussie yen, we expected further downside to Aussie yen. We also expected a bit of a rebound down at this 88.50, and that's what we got in the end. Price rebounded from there, came back up into our area of interest for shorts, and then came all the way back down again. And it looks like we can waiting for a little bit more of a catalyst here to see if price will break lower or trade back towards the 90.50 handle. CAD yen was probably our best performing currency pair of this week. We were looking for some downside moves around about the 98 handle or the 98 spot 50. If you did look for those 98 spot 50 moves, then it came up in there nicely and price drove back to the downside into the 96 handle. So that was what I was looking at going into this week, and it played out really nicely. Price now back at resistance, support of the lows and that trend line support now, so we may start to see a little bit of a relief rally out of CAD yen. But overall, good trading week this week. The yen pairs really came in for us, and we spotted that yen strength really on the strength meter. So I'll be doing an updated video on that very, very soon. So looking forward to doing that. So thanks for watching the video content this week. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, leave this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the YouTube channel to see some more Forex trading content. And I'll speak to you in the next video.